Today is Wednesday, April the 29th of 2020, and it looks like Liz is in the house and Barefoot Doc. Barefoot Doc and I just had a 1 year anniversary recently, along with quite a few other people who are in the house.
All right. Well, we got a full house tonight, I think. And for everyone, welcome. We got we'll see what we can get through in the first half hour here. We got some more Sylvia Browne predictions we're going to go through. We're going to talk about the silver thread and when the gold leaves the body. And then depending on time, we might get to the topic of skinwalkers. And Raymond also sent us some more Bible verses. So we might get a chance to take a look at a few of those. So anyway, we will get started. All right. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started since we technical difficulties are resolved. We'll jump right in. So Sam, last meetup, we had talked about some of the Sylvia Browne's predictions. And for those of you who may have missed that, she is a famous psychic medium who's been on TV and all kinds of things. And she published a list of her predictions for the next 100 years. So at the top of each meeting, we're just going to go through them, and Sam will get your take on them. We'll do 10 more and see what you think. So the next one on our list was the remolding of whole face structure to duplicate any look that you wish.
Well, I do believe that that is something that can be similarly done, but not easily or, well, how can I say cheaply? It's not something that anybody could afford. I do see in the future that they will have better techniques that will help people, for example, who've been in terrible accidents where they've really had to have their face rebuilt. And they're going to do it in a way that's much more affordable, less painful, more resembles, the picture that they wanted. They would ask them for a picture of themselves and, redo it and see if they wanted some tweaks here and there. That will be allowed. So
I thought of that horrible movie with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, Face Off. Yeah, that was where they switch faces.
Yeah. So I do see that in the future. I'm saying that's like much further down the road in more when we're sort of more into the utopian phase and not in like the Great Depression. Okay. I mean, that's going to slow a lot of stuff down. But when we come out the other end, things will be fixed and there'll be such an advancement in science and technology and medical as well. It's going to be amazing.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
The next one is new exercise equipment that you sit or stand in, and it literally stimulates your muscles with electricity to achieve the same effect as physical exercise.
Oh, I think they have those now.
Yeah, the little electro muscle stimulators. Yeah. I don't know if they actually work or not, though. I was thinking of those machines back from the 60s with a belt that just jiggles you for, my aunt used to have one of those. The next one is babies will be birthed in water all the time with music, incense, and green and lavender lights.
I don't think that that's going to be anything that's going to be a trend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, but I don't think they'll put those in hospitals. Then the next one, Atlantis will begin to show itself by 2023 and be fully visible by 2026.
Timeline's probably off a bit, but yes, it is part of the land that is reoccurring. It's coming up. I think they already know where it is. Like, is it Bimini?
That's been suspected for a long time, yeah. So that's almost like you'll have some areas rising and other areas subducting.
Yeah. Well, I know that Edgar Cayce, that he accessed the same source that I access. Okay. So he's one of the people that when I read his teachings and stuff, it keeps consistently coming up as correct. Okay. So if anybody was wondering if I did follow any psychic mediums, I don't follow any current living ones because I don't want to be influenced. But I do like to read about when I was learning about how to handle my gift and stuff. I would read about people like Edgar Cayce and learn some stuff about him. And I was very agreeable on a lot of the things that he spoke about in his trance. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Whereas other people who maybe are not at the same level, they are off on a lot of things.
Yeah, and Bimini would make sense because in that area, I want to say like in Jamaica, I remember a History Channel where they talked about the ports that the pirates used in the Caribbean back in I don't know if it was the 1700s or so. Those have sunken; they're underwater. So if that area experienced that, and later on it came back up. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And then, last one. After 2050, the age of Messiah is upon us. People turn totally towards spirituality. Peace will reign for a long time. People will return to community living, loving each other, and working together after 2050.
Well, I don't see that. I do see the world that we currently live in becoming a better place, though, more organized. And just even with the financials, with stuff being on the blockchain where it's trustless, you don't have to deal with all this theft anymore. I mean, we're still going to have the human problems that we have, but not to the level that we've had them. I mean, evil has just been running ripshod over Earth like this, and it's just getting to its worst right now, but it's coming to an end very soon.
In the woo world, and you hear about this, the silver thread that connects the soul to the body, like an umbilical cord. It's kind of like this life-giving linkage from the higher self down to the body. And what's interesting is the more I research this, it's even mentioned in the Bible. There's Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 6 and 7. It says, "Before the silver cord is snapped and the golden bowl is broken, and the pitcher is shattered in the spring and the pulley is broken at the well, and the dust returns to the earth as it once was, and life breath returns to God who gave it." And I was like, oh, it's even in the Bible they mentioned it. So is that silver thread a thing? Is that the correct way of thinking about how we're attached to our physical bodies?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And
Okay.
as long as you have that thread attached, you can go back into your body. But once that cord has been cut, that's it.
Okay. So if you're having a near-death experience or something, that thread is still there, and that's what can pull you back into your body that you hear about.
That's right. Like if you once you've already gone and started to go through your end of life review, that cord's been cut.
Wow. Ooh, barefoot. You've seen the thread. I hope not in a scary way. Now, as I was thinking about this today, the topic, I remember this movie. I remember the movie 21 Grams from back in the early 2000s. It was a movie with like Benicio del Toro and with Sean Penn. But the theory is that the soul weighs like 21 grams. There was a doctor back in 1901, Duncan McDougall, and he tried to figure out if we can figure out how much the soul weighs. And what he did is there was about 6 people, and he measured them right upon their death. There were people that were very ill in that state, and he put their whole bed on a scale. And for several of them, they noticed that at the time of death, the scale actually went light by about 3/4 of an ounce or 21 grams. Sam, do you think there's anything to that the soul has actual weight?
Yeah, when it's in the human body, it does because everything in the earth realm has weight. I mean, that's only natural.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. And what's interesting, that was like almost 119 years ago. And no one has ever experimented since then. And they also have done the same thing with dogs and mice, but they don't change. Like the weights they've measured haven't changed. So makes you think. I think they were trying to prove that only humans have souls and that the souls have mass. And so anyway, interesting experiment. Okay. So Sam, along this topic, I want to talk about what happens, in various states of physical consciousness. So I kind of want to go through like a couple different ones. So if you are unconscious, but like you revive in a few minutes, like you maybe got knocked out with a punch, or maybe cardiac arrest, at what point would your consciousness actually leave your body during those instances? Are you still in it and just you're kind of short circuited?
Well, if you have a heart attack, it doesn't take long to start leaving your body because that is an activity that does lead to death.
Okay.
So that can start to happen almost right away. But of course, you can, go back into your body. A lot of people say they remember coming out of their body and seeing paramedics work on them. So, there is a period of time that you still stay in your body when you're not sort of dead yet. But it's only after you've actually died that you lift out of your body. And then there's, a time period that you have to go back in if it's to be successful.
Okay. Interesting. What about people that are in sort of a conscious but nonverbal state? So I'm thinking about maybe people that have had medical condition that results from maybe a brain injury, like a stroke or aneurysm, that they're still in their body, they're still conscious, you can see them awake, or even some other conditions such as like, nonverbal autism or cerebral palsy. I mean, I'm sure many of us have had relatives with, any one of these conditions. Are they, I guess their consciousness is still in their body, but their vessel, their body just isn't working properly?
Right.
Okay.
Right. See,
Oh,
Tech Cowgirl says that she had 2 heart attacks and visited the other side both times. Because
wow.
when you think about it, if you have a heart attack, normally you're dead right then.
Yeah.
And then a certain amount of time, and then, you end up going to the other side, but then they revive you. The paramedics come and you're revived. So, you have that opportunity to know that you continue to live on after you die.
Yeah. Interesting. Tech cowgirl, maybe you have a silver lasso instead of a silver thread. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting because, like, my before my grandfather passed away, you would talk to him and he was conscious, but it was like you could tell he was processing it, but he couldn't. It took him a really long time to respond. So anybody with
Mhm.
relatives in that state, it sounds like they can hear and understand us. They're just unable probably to respond like they used to. Okay. And then the last one, you've talked about this, the like the long term unconsciousness, such as a coma or brain dead. So it sounds like, really, from what we've seen here, that anytime you're out of you're kind of unconscious, your soul can leave the body. Does that sound right?
It's a different state.
Okay.
Like when you're in a coma, that's a different state. Like anyone who will tell you that when someone enters a coma state, their brain waves are different.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And so that has something to do with, how sometimes you can leave your body and wander around. Because I've used the example, and like I said, I've learned this stuff from personal experience, finding out after the fact that the person talking to me from, Sunday to, Tuesday morning didn't actually have the plug pulled on his ventilator until Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, he was talking to me just like a dead person would talk to me, but he wasn't dead. He was technically alive.
That's fascinating to think about all these different states and how we're attached to our bodies. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And I only know this stuff because, it happened to me because, I don't know. How would I know that stuff? Right. You kind of got to put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, well, and it's from the circumstance as well, where you find out from the person that you're delivering the message to the whole scenario that, they had been involved in a house fire on
Okay.
Saturday night or, and had been on a ventilator since that time and
Okay.
then until Tuesday morning. So, it's like, oh, well, this is very interesting that this person wasn't actually dead.
Well, and that's interesting. So, as a medium, because you can access that realm more easily, it sounds like mediums are able to communicate people when they're out of that or in that state, so to speak, right?
Yeah, well, he actually came and found me. So
Oh,
he must have been accessing something to know that I would be able to hear him and understand him and then be able to connect with his brother. Because oh my gosh, his brother wasn't a friend. They weren't a friend or an acquaintance.
yeah.
So Tech Cowgirl said that she doesn't fear death now at all. And it's like me, I don't fear death at all. I haven't had a near death experience, but crossing over so many times to get the messages and, glean what information I can, you really don't fear it.
Yeah. All right. Well, very cool. Thanks for that perspective. I learned a lot. It kind of helps kind of put everything in place. All right. We're close to a half hour here. Let me just touch on one topic. We'll save skinwalkers to the next time. We'll get to one of Raymond's Bible verses because I thought this one was really interesting. So I want to get your thoughts, Sam, on what's happening in this Bible verse from Revelations chapter 10. And the title is The Angel with a Small Scroll. It says, Then I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud with a halo around his head. His face was like the sun, and his feet were like pillars of fire. In his hand he held a small scroll that had been opened. He placed his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and then he cried out in a loud voice as a lion roars. When he cried out, 7 thunders raised their voices too. When the 7 thunders had spoken, I was about to write it down, but I heard a voice from heaven say, Seal up what the 7 thunders have spoken, but do not write it down. What do you think they were talking about in the person that wrote that?
What the seven thunders have spoken, it's probably the things that lead up to um, Armageddon.
Okay. What do you think they were describing that angel? As I was reading that, my thought, and Raymond was asking if it was an angel or a UFO. My thought was like if you were see a spaceship off in the distance, like one of Elon Musk's, SpaceX things, it comes down and it fires before it lands on the surface. It almost sounds like a rocket landing to some degree. So that's what came to mind when I read it. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that would make total sense. And as you know, they had to describe a lot of things with what they knew. I picked up right away when they were describing the helicopters
Yeah.
in the Bible, in the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
Um, but they have to go with what they know for the time. And this wasn't a time where machinery had been created yet. I mean, they were still working with pulleys and wedges and things like that.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, interesting. All right. Thanks for that Bible verse, Raymond. All right. And we're here in about a half hour. So let's get into the questions. We have 29 questions, Sam. So let's get started. This one is from Drill and Phil. Hi, Sam and Rudy. This has happened to me repeatedly to a point that I just chuckle. I would read something in the book that I hear the exact same words spoken on TV in the background, or vice versa. The timing is really strange. What does it mean? The words aren't of any importance, and I keep seeing 444 on a daily basis, like a glitch in the matrix.
Well, the hearing the stuff on TV and radio, or even somebody saying those words, that happens to me all the time. So I know that it's something linked to psychic ability, and it's just I just consider it static, like psychic static, I guess you could say.
Things are happening. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Lost Shaker says, Hi, Sam and Rudy. You've mentioned we have tribes on the other side and that we reincarnate with our tribe members. What happens when a soul relative to the tribe graduates from one realm, like Earth, and advances to a higher realm? Does the soul leave the tribe and join another, or does it stay within their tribe but join higher level members? Thank you so much.
The soul joins higher level members in their tribe.
Okay.
Because people move on, but it eventually goes like this, right? So, your next level up, some of your tribe who left before are there, but not all of them. And then you go up one, so it's just, but each time you make new friends.
It's like you start in middle school, and then eventually the people you knew in middle school show up in high school later
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's really hard to describe it on the earth plane because remember, things are physical here and it's so different. And I mean, I almost feel silly describing it like, oh, well, you make new friends, But I mean, how else can I explain it? It's all about, learning more and advancing as a being. Like that's what everyone's goal is to do better each time and to learn more.
Caitlin writes, Hi, Sam and Rudy. I understand that different mediums and different psychics receive their information in different ways. Why does spirit communicate to you through images predominantly? And why is there so much translation from your end that needs to occur? Wouldn't it be easier for them to speak directly to you to ensure that the message is received clearly? Thanks. We can only wish, right? That they
Well, there has to be an element of self-protection built in, or people would just come and kidnap me. I mean, think about it, right? There has to be an element of self-protection. So that's why it's on a need-to-know basis. They don't always tell me. They tell me the story. I mean, it's kind of awkward when somebody is still alive and you're predicting their death and telling them how they're going to die. Like that's not cool. It's not cool in the medium world. I mean, if you have to know something to help, again, protect, prevent, prepare, right? And a lot of times, if you know that somebody's going to pass, it's to prepare. Like that's why I was the first one on the plane out to help my dad because I knew he was going to die quickly and I needed to get there to him because I would be the one who would be able to help him pass over and not be afraid, right? Because he always trusted my judgment. So I was able to sort of talk him through it, tell him what was going to happen. I had a very positive attitude about things. I wasn't bawling and crying and making things more upsetting, because that's upsetting for people when they're dying. They don't want to have to, they worry about their family, right? And that's why sometimes they won't die unless you're like not in the room.
Wow, that's interesting. My wife knows someone who's works as a what do they call it? Like a death midwife, where people that are dying, she works with them as they cross over. And I never heard of that before, so that's really neat. But back to Caitlin's question, and we've also mentioned in other meetups too how the amount of energy it takes to communicate. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. They can probably show you a lot more in one image than those clear audible signals that you get from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, I just get a handful every year of clear audible. No, actually, where I actually hear them talking out loud. I mean, the clear audibles a few times a week.
Okay.
It's not, but the pictures all day, every day, all the time. My husband used to say it was cute because just even a couple of years leading up to starting the channel, and I think I mentioned this before, that he would come into the room, he would see I was talking to somebody. Because you can tell when someone's, even though I wasn't talking out loud, he could tell the way my eyes were moving, my mouth might be moving a bit, or you could tell I was kind of having a conversation. And then I would stop when he would come in the room, and he would finally say, "You don't have to stop just because I'm here. You can talk to them, I'm
Well,
like,
your early YouTube videos, you're like, yeah, you're looking up to the right. And it's like you can tell that you're getting information. It's really interesting. Cool. All right. William Penn writes, is there alien technology in the Grand Canyon, or humans used to mine gold in this same area?
the humans mining the gold, I think that's more like in Mesopotamia, right? Which is current day, because Mesopotamia was like Babylon, which is like Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, like all that area. I think I'm pretty sure that was, and maybe like Egypt
Okay.
as well. Humans were used as slaves. So nothing on the North American continent. That came later. North America was not as full of people as the other part of the world.
Okay. Any alien? Oh, I think the alien technology that relates to that. I think there was a plane crash in the Grand Canyon, and then they walled off the area because it was near some sort of weird site that might have had alien technology. Any truth to that?
No.
I forget where I've seen that one before too, William. William also writes, Sylvia Browne uses many of the same words as you describing the other side. She makes mention of going through a tunnel into a meadow where we are greeted by our loved ones. She also said that the other side is three feet above us in a realm that vibrates at a higher frequency. Is there any truth to these claims?
That would pretty much describe it. Yep.
All right.
It's, if you think about my animation video, right? You can see I'm running through like this or this dark cloud area. Well, if your soul's going through, wouldn't it make sense that you were going through like a tunnel? Yeah. Because then you're avoiding all of that sort of, but I mean, I'm not dead when I'm going to the other side. So I just have to hoof it the regular way, right? I'm not going through that tunnel. But when you see it over the hedge, right? And then on the other side, it's like just nice and bright. And I think that Becky did a really good job of sort of describing, what it is like over there. So higher vibration. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was a really good video. Lucy writes, hi guys. Sam, would you be able to explain what the Great Awakening is about? Is it a raise in consciousness that enables the awakened to access other dimensions, for example? Will there be two Earths in the sense that the awakened will not be touched by all the violence and negativity in the world? Will we look younger, live longer as our biology has changed? Thanks heaps, Lucy.
That's a great question, Lucy. There's not going to be two different Earths. It's still going to be the same old, same old. But what's going to happen is that many people who have gifts, it's going to be revealed. And there'll be more and more people who are like me, who have abilities like I do, but also abilities that I don't have, because there's so many different gifts that people can have. And there'll be people who specialize in gifts, the gift of healing. I know one of my jobs is to teach the mediums. That's what I was described as by another medium is, oh, you're the teacher of the medium. So that's what I'm supposed to do, is draw people are supposed to be drawn to me. And then I'm supposed to just be a place where they can learn about their abilities and lift their vibrations. And there's not going to be two different earths that we're living. We're not going to be protected from the violence or anything like that, but we will have an extra sense of how to avoid problems in our life. And I feel so much more prepared with what's going on in the world right now. I'm not afraid about where we're headed. I've been expecting it for a while, and my attitude is kind of like, let's just get it over with and get on with the good stuff that's coming for us.
I know I have to remember that I'm into all this, and people that I work with are not, and some people are just scared and freaked out. And I'm like, ooh, something's coming. I don't want to say what I think is going to happen or what I've heard, but yeah. So I'm very eager for it as well. All right. JCat writes, do you think people on the other side would ever lie or not give the full truth in order to protect us? Are there questions they are deemed not to answer by higher powers? In other words, the people on the other side have a non-disclosure agreement with the universe on certain topics.
Yeah, well, there's some stuff that our human minds just can't comprehend. Okay. Right. And also other things too. It's kind of like, it's not in my purview. It's like, that's not part of my assignment. There's no need for, it's almost like they just, oh yeah, you'll find out about that later. No, you don't need to know about that now. And I have noticed that they do hide from me when people are going to die. And I'm not to tell. So I don't keep secrets from people. It's not like, oh, you knew that all along. No, I don't keep secrets. If I get something, I'm figuring that I'm supposed to pass it on. Otherwise they wouldn't tell me. Okay. Right. And normally they explain the reason why, because I'm like, oh, why are you getting me to tell him that? Oh my God. He likes to drive his bicycle every day. Now he's going to be paranoid. I don't know. I question it sometimes, but I do trust them. So, this is just part of it. But yeah, I would say they definitely do keep stuff from me because, there are some things that just should be on a need to know basis. And the other thing too, is that again, I'm no good to anybody kidnapped. So they need to make sure that, I'm not like that perfect and exact, but you can see how for what we're doing with cryptocurrencies, the information I'm getting and the way that the angle sort of that I'm coming at it from, it's like you can see how in the long term for a large group of people that it would work out for them, right?
And that's what I think about, you have a job and there's a large group and you're doing what fits all of us the best. And then for the individualized stuff, we can come to you for our own personal things. But what you're putting out there is really what's going to help the most people in this group. But I don't think they would lie. That doesn't seem like something that you would get from them. They would just they wouldn't lie to motivate you to get you to do something. They would find another way to get you to do it.
Right. No, they are never, because you lose trust. Yeah. Right. And a really big part of, the work that I'm doing, you have to trust me. I have to trust them. And, I've been working with them since I was a small child. So I know them pretty well. And I know what their motivation is. And I know it is to help people and to save people some of the hardships that might come to them if they don't get the information that they need. It's all positive, positive, positive. I know it's not from the dark side because the dark side hates us so much. They would not want me to help anybody, even a little bit. A lot of people say, oh, well, what if it's all part so that you can mislead everybody in a big, I'm like, no, they don't work that way because, even 5 minutes of happiness, they want to squash that. That's how dark and distasteful those things are. Like you have no idea like how much they hate us. It's, but it's just part of the universe. They're there. We're here. We got to deal with it.
Well, and think of the knock-on effect. What you're doing helps us, but what people on our Discord are going to do are going to help so many others. And it's just this knock-on effect that we're going to get. Yeah. So it'll be interesting in like 20 years to see where we're all at and what we've all done,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. I'm enjoying flying below the radar right now because I'm looking at some of my prediction stuff and I'm just like, should I put that in? Because I think the Men in Black might show up. Oh yeah, they might. Should I put that in? No, I'm not going to put that. I should put that. No, I don't know. I was like, I'm arguing with myself about it because some stuff is like, it's almost scary. Yeah. And, like I said, you put that stuff out on the internet and I don't see like, if you guys ever find anything out there, put out there by any mediums that are like crazy like that, like some of the stuff that we've been involved in, and then it comes true, please send me a link. Let me see it, because I'm looking at my stuff and I'm just like, and we'll put the scary build up music, and then show the newspaper articles. And thanks to Alex, remembering to remind me to timestamp everything.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big help.
William Penn writes, will we find evidence of a place or civilization called Lemuria?
I just need more information on Lemuria. I don't.
Yeah, is Lemuria the same as Atlantis, or was that another Atlantis type culture? I don't know if anyone can write that in the comments.
Yeah, because they are going to find a lot, and it is going to reveal quite a bit. And we're far past the point where governments will hide anything from us anymore.
Okay. And William also writes, is there a mother god named Azna, Azna? This was also a claim of Sylvia's. A mother god.
No, there's not really. Like, there's not a mother or father. See, there's no sex on the other side.
Okay.
Right? Like, I'm not female on the other side. You're not male. We just are. We're not. Because that's a human thing, being male or female.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thanks, everyone. Yeah, Lemuria, they were saying this earlier that Atlantis, it's a different place, according to Mana, another continent in the Pacific. So, okay, good to know. That's right.
Australia.
Yeah,
it's part of Lemuria. Yep, they'll get lots of information about all of those places. And, this is all part of the Great Awakening, enlightening, finding out about our history, people's spiritual gifts, like what Drill and Phil is experiencing. Like, this is one of the things that we'll start to see more and more, as people's psychic abilities, their intuition lifts, and then it moves into psychic abilities, and then they're advancing, and and then it's like, hey, you know what? We really should be having classes for stuff like this, because it's seeming like there's a much larger percentage of the population that have knowings, that have abilities, and we need to develop that.
Okay. Crypto Cupcake writes, hi, Sam. Do you believe there are benefits traveling to certain high energy or sacred places, such as ancient Egyptian or Mayan pyramids, crop circles, Stonehenge, Mount Shasta, or the Sedona vortexes? Some believe these places can have certain activations. Are there any places worth visiting that you and the people on the other side believe that may contribute to one's spiritual connection? Thank you.
Well, rather than these things, ley lines that people are talking about, these sorts of things, you don't really get anything as a spiritual human being in these areas that you couldn't get somewhere else. There was a Buddhist ashram, and all of the people who were staying there were going through a bout of silence. They weren't allowed to speak to you. So you just had to respect that. And the only people who were allowed to speak were the ones who worked in the bookstore. But that was part of how they paid for their operation, were the things that they sold in this store. But I went into the ashram, and it's round, and it's made of a certain kind of wood. And I swear, like, the vibrations coming off of it, for me as a medium, it was just amazing. So it had nothing to do with ley lines or anything like that. It had to do with the whole, the location, who I was surrounded by, and this round, I don't know if they make it from cedar wood or what it is that makes it feel that way.
Well, that's interesting. I wonder, as your abilities develop, that then maybe you'll experience things differently than you did before. So, like, when you were younger, when you were in Sedona, have you ever been to Sedona lately? Have you?
Not lately, but I think I'll be going to Arizona sometime soon.
Okay. And if I go up there, yeah, we'll stop in and say hi to Betty, who's up there.
Yeah.
Antibus.
Absolutely.
All right. Dale writes, hi, guys. Several weeks ago, I had a vivid dream about a future action that the U.S. government may take regarding a change in taxation. Just recently, I had another dream in which I repeated my dream to friends, a young couple, using the same message and wording given to me in my original dream. I never had a dream with another dream within another dream before. Is someone on the other side working to get me to this message out, or trying to get me to get this message out? A big thanks for all you do here.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you're getting some information there, because when you remember something so vividly like that, when you wake up, usually it is your your people, trying to get some information to you, because in your dream state, that is the easiest way for them to reach out to you, but it stands out. It's not something that you would have every night. This is you know, once every couple of years or once a year sort of thing. This isn't, and they'll intrude in your sleep and put these dreams in your mind, and then you wake up and you're like, hey, that was really unusual. What's the message?
I've had a couple of those dreams within a dream, and they're trippy. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I woke up. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Sweet Home Chicago writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. 8 years ago, my son had miasm release therapy. He was channeling. We were guided to Beyond Wellness, for which I'm very grateful. Don Masat is a shaman light worker who performed a miasm release therapy 3 times for my son. I was very worried about his newfound uncontrolled ability and wanted him to learn protections. He enrolled in Don's Sacred Journey School. He did very well. Are miasms the dark entities you mentioned laughing at to get to your guides? So I think the miasm, I was reading about the miasm release therapy, and they seem to be like this negative energy that kind of builds up around people. So I guess she's asking, are these miasms kind of these dark and similar with these dark entities?
I'm not aware of any therapy that would get rid of them. So I'm not quite familiar with this. If somebody wants to send me something on it, it's more about education and just recognizing, what it is, and then what are the things that you need to do as a medium or somebody who has, gifts and abilities of any kind. Anybody who's going to serve their fellow humans with their superhuman abilities, like whatever their gift is, laying on hands, making a blind person see, whatever it is that is their gift or ability, they're going to have these things notice them. It's just the way that it is. And there's nobody can sage you to get rid of them. You just have to make sure, don't abuse alcohol, don't abuse drugs. Don't get yourself tied into a bad relationship where you're screaming with somebody all the time. Like, this is not cool. Don't participate in road rage. Do not surround yourself with people who are problem people. Don't get yourself into situations where you're under extreme pressure from some people just tie themselves up in so many knots all the time. And that's also part of the game that these things will try to play on you to get you distracted. Because one of the biggest complaints when you cross over to the other side is that you'll say, oh, the time that I wasted, right, on stupid stuff.
Yeah. All right. Courtney says, hey, Sam and Rudy. Sam, there seems to be a societal epidemic of narcissists. Please tell me these types will become extinct during the Great Awakening. LOL. Courtney.
Yeah, we should be so lucky. And, sometimes people use the word narcissist just really to describe that people that they don't like, because I have heard that word a lot, and it's typically used, for example, when somebody's telling you about the person that they just broke up with. Oh, well, they were a narcissist. And, just translated, it's like, well, you saw that they thought more about themselves and they thought about you, and, that sort of thing. And, that's always going to be a part of human nature. But I do think that we're going to be moving into, as the world changes, like that lifestyle that everybody had where they could get whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted in other parts of the world, like that's going to change, and even in America and it's going to be, if you don't work, you don't eat kind of mentality. Like, you have to be productive. There's none of these free checks going out just because of the fact that they can't afford the manpower to be sitting on the couch, right? It's going to be all hands on deck. So many people are going to be needed to work in America, for example, right? So I think that that's where everything's headed.
And no one will care what your triple non-fat vanilla latte you got from Starbucks looks like.
Right.
Hopefully we'll stop seeing those.
Yeah.
All right. Empowering You writes, ciao, guys. As always, big thank you. You know how you have my Darth Vader breathing down in your throat? Why is it that a loved one can't hear them when they are eager? As you know, I am aware of his signs but would love to hear him myself. What does one need to do to be able to hear their loved one? Or do they have to have gifts? Thank you. Thank you.
Well, normally you have to have gifts in order to hear somebody, but you will have incidents. Usually, like I said, it's in the dreams. So they do find it easier to reach you through the dreams. But the other thing, too, is that if you could actually hear them or reach them like a medium can talk to them, it becomes very distracting in your day to day life. And they really do want you to live your life. So you can see how it kind of makes sense that, they've passed over, they're on the other side, they're keeping an eye on you, making sure, steady as she goes kind of thing. And, just waiting for the time when they'll see you again on the other side. And in the meantime, they want you to enjoy your life and they don't want you to be thinking about them.
May writes, "Hi, Sam. Can you talk about the detailed mechanics of how prayer works on the other side? Who hears and responds to our prayers? It seems that all prayers work if we pray diligently. So there's no judgment on the other. So there's no judgment on the other side. It's a question. Thank you, Sam.
Well, most of the judgment would come from ourselves when we cross over and we see our story from start to finish. Right. So it's, that's why it's called I call it a life review. People who are religious might refer to it as Judgment Day, but you see the good as well. When you've done things that have made people feel special and important, those things are pointed out to you. How you give people a smile and you bring their mood up. And that's how people see you, so you have that judgment. And that's where most people, the most common judgment is, all of the time I wasted.
And the prayer, I mean, is that more the mechanics? Is it more like focusing on the, getting yourself in that vibrational state, kind of like manifesting? Is that kind of how prayer works?
It's more of the intentions. And then when you have so many people all at the same time who are all sort of reaching into the ethos with the same intention, then they can sort of punt it, like try to see if they can get it to move that way with their intentions. That's really what it comes down to. I really do believe that, some people can be saved by prayer. And it has nothing to do with, who's good and who's bad or anything at all like that. It just has to do with, was that a nexus point with that person? Did they have to pass away? Oh, they did. Okay, yeah. Well, no amount of prayer. The prayer just helps them pass easier. It helps, comfort their family more, like that sort of thing. So it's not a waste of time for sure. But other people, again, they're not at a nexus point. So you can potentially affect the outcome with your prayer and good intentions all combined together.
Tech Cowgirl writes, "Hi, Sam. My husband wants to know if in the next 5 years or 10 or 15, society will get will get commercially sold aftermarket kits for do-it-yourselfers to easily convert their cars into self-driving cars. Myself, I'd prefer a flying car like the Jetsons. When would those be cheap enough for the average person to buy? 20 years out or more? I know they've been testing out some small, several-person drone-type cars and some with chopper blades, etc. So flying cars, interesting.
I don't see any do-it-yourself kits for flying cars. I mean, certainly a novel idea, and there's certainly always a niche market for anything like that. But I do see flying cars, and they're manufactured. You have to buy them as is. I think they're going to have some rules about homemade things, just because of the safety aspect of it. But yeah, that's going to be a whole new open can of worms, I think.
I think of the air traffic control nightmare. I have a friend who's a doctor, and he thought, hey, maybe I'll start get into flying. And he had a good friend that's a pilot say, unless you start in your 20s, so don't start. You'll end up. That's most people that start in their 40s kill themselves because you're not used to it. It takes you a long time to really learn to fly with our current technology. So, yeah, that'd have to be some pretty big improvements in technology.
Yeah, I think so. Before you start letting people fly in the air.
Yeah, some people we don't even want to drive.
I was just going to say, they shouldn't even be allowed on the roads. So let alone flying through the air.
Hummingbird writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I had a dream last night that a company called All Atlassian was trying to recruit me and created business cards with my name and picture on it. Is this dream prophetic? I wasn't even thinking about that company at all.
Well, it's probably not even necessarily that company. It might be just a job coming your way because you saw the business card there and your picture posted on it. So that might be the message with that. It doesn't necessarily have to match up with, like I said, I mean, gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if I always got the names of everything? That would be very cool. You know, if I could tell somebody the name of the company instead of describing what it is. Or one time, one thing that really just surprised me was I described to somebody the doctor that was going to help them and what his background, you know, I described him as a person, like what he looked like. And I also like his age range, that sort of thing. And I said that he also not only was he a doctor of medicine, I said he also has like he knows about herbs and that sort of thing, like naturopathic medicine as well. And then the person wrote me back and told me, they said, that's actually one of the people that I interviewed to help, you know, to go to and pay them for their service. That man fits exactly what you described. And so they ended up going there. But I didn't get the name, right? I didn't get the name, but I was able to get through the pictures. I was able to get enough information to describe, you know, the right choice to them.
Well, and even in like the general population, what percentage of dreams would you say are actually prophetic or indications of the future? I seem to have random dreams all the time, and I've never had one come true. But maybe for some people it does. But would you
Yeah.
say sometimes dreams are just dreams most of the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. Most of the time dreams are just, it's just your brain working while you're sleeping. That's all it is. There's not anything to read into or anything like that. Nothing to be worried about. Normally when you're getting information from the other side or from like your people, your tribe, it's very vivid. You know, it's that technicolor type dream and you know what it is. And
Yeah.
that they don't happen very often, but in your sleep state, that's going to be the easiest way for them to reach out to you. So I think that that's something that I think everybody can look forward to happening. I don't get a lot of those types of dreams, but normally mine is more about as soon as I wake up in the morning, I sort of catch the end of a dream or have an impression and it comes true very quickly that day.
Okay. All right. JCat writes, regarding auras, the energy field that surrounds living things, I think I have developed the ability to see my own. Is it a bright teal color? Is this a real phenomenon, or are my eyes just playing tricks on me?
Yeah, no, it's a real phenomenon. Mine's like a really bright green.
Ah, cool. Yeah,
I can't see mine. I was just told.
it's one of those things where my son can start to see, even as just energy field. We've been working on that, and like if you have like a red light, is a good way to hold it, and then kind of focus on your hand, and you'll start to see around it. So you can definitely focus on it and develop that skill. So yeah, keep looking at that, even if you're looking at your hand or something and looking at trees. That's something I've been working on too. So I haven't seen anything yet, but very cool. All right. Eugene, aka Ziggy, writes, hello, Sam. I hope all is well. In the quantum timeline, there is C21st reference to 1997, first quantum teleportation, 2011, the Higgs boson particle detected at CERN, 2014, air-free transfer of data by quantum teleportation, 2017, development of first quantum computers. What do your guides tell you relating to the quantum timeline beyond 2021? So, what types of quantum technology will we see after 2021, I guess?
I think there'll be some stuff related to the blockchain
Okay.
after 2021, but that I don't really have too much information. But I do want to say that Simply John, he's just proving how silly he is. He said in the Discord room, he was like, and then he says, I can smell an aura around my feet. I'm like, see, you're silly.
I wonder if other
Yeah.
people can too.
Yeah, I think we all can. We're 100%, especially after a walk outside.
All right. May writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. What do you think about numerology? Is there science to it, or is it accurate in comparison to astrology? I recently learned that tarot cards are also very accurate. They represent the macro and micro universe in our lives. Thank you. So, what do you think about numerology?
I think that there's something to it for
Okay.
sure. I just don't know what it is. Numerology, astrology. The information that I have, though, about that is that there's not very many people who are very good at it.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, there's very, very few that can, and it takes a long time to
Yeah.
learn it.
And it's not your job, so they're not going to give you much info on that, right?
Right.
All right. And our last question of the night, Suji writes, "Hi guys, are you aware of anything under the ice in Antarctica? Galactic civilization being discovered and hidden now by various governments?"
No, no, I don't think there's anything galactic going on here on the planet right now. I mean, there are visitors here for the Great Awakening, but they're not like setting up shop and having communities in the Arctic or anything like that.
I think that's the one where all those politicians were going to see it. And I think you mentioned before that they discovered it's like some sort of little ecosystem
Yeah.
within, but it wasn't anything that was out of this world, right?
Right.
Okay. Very cool. Okay. Well, that does it for tonight, Sam. We were through all the questions, just about an
All
hour.
right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out. And Rudy, always nice to see you again. I look forward to our get togethers, and thanks for putting together such a great agenda. And once again, guys, thanks again. Okay. Bye for now.